Attention, ladies and gentlemen. We're now arriving in Detroit. Once again, this is Detroit Woodward Street Station. And thank you for riding Amtrak.
All right. Here we go. Welcome to the Wisendell Weekly Wrap-Up, where we're talking about architecture, design, everything in between. We are still in Detroit and have the great opportunity to sit down with one of the movers and shakers of the city. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, I'm Kim Hoyle, and I have been moving and shaking around Detroit for a long time.
Nice, very nice.
In this wonderful world of architecture, engineering, and construction for the past 6.5 years.
Nice. And did you go to school for architecture or interior design, or what did you go to school for?
No, I went to school for marketing and Japanese.
Japanese?
Yes. Japanese,
wow.
Yes.
I did not expect you to say that.
so miles and miles away from where I am.
Okay.
Career-wise.
Very cool. And did you go to school in Michigan, or are you from Michigan? Tell us a little bit about that.
I graduated from Eastern Michigan. I was born in Detroit at around 3. I moved out of the city further west to the suburbs. I grew up in Ypsilanti. High school, middle school, elementary school there, and then, like I said, Eastern for college. And then after college, I took my show on the road, moved to New York.
Nice.
And
what was New York like?
Oh gosh, New York was awesome. So I spent a lot of time prior to moving there, going back and forth on weekends, and you couldn't tell me that I was not a New Yorker.
Mm-hmm.
I could not wait to get there.
Yeah.
Well, turns out. When I moved there, I lived in Harlem, which I loved, but it just, the thing I missed most, honestly, were the crickets outside, the sound of crickets outside of my bedroom. And I just couldn't get with the grit of the city, and just, I think New York is a great city, but it's different when you're visiting than when you actually live there.
Absolutely.
So, it didn't last longer than 8 months for me.
Yeah.
So I ended up in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Jersey. I did a short stint in Jersey City. So.
Oh yeah, I love Jersey City. Yeah. We were a little bit further, so not southern Jersey, but maybe like central Jersey. We ended up, when you have kids and all that.
Yeah.
Stuff, you gotta have a yard and educate them.
Space.
Yeah. So honestly, I thought that's where I would be, forever. And my husband's company relocated us here about 11 years ago. So he brought me back home. I think he did that on purpose.
Right.
Drop me off at my mom's.
And help with the kids too.
Right. But so we've been back here for about 11 years now.
Cool. Very cool. So how has the city changed? I guess a big question. How has the city changed since you first got here to where it is now?
So 11 years ago, when we moved here, I was working from home full time, and we live in the suburbs.
Okay.
And so I didn't really get to see, the very beginnings of the transformation, because I wasn't downtown unless we were going to dinner or whatever. But my husband was, interestingly enough, showing me around Detroit, and I'm like, yeah, you're from here. But, we started to see more businesses moving in. You started to see more people moving in. And then you fast forward to pre-COVID, so much development, so many projects, that had stopped and started and then now complete. A lot more people, a lot more activity. The demographics have changed quite a bit. And it's great to see a city like Detroit that's so creative and so charismatic bounce back the way that it has. It's awful where we are now with COVID and see things come to a screeching halt. But it's been an interesting evolution.
Yeah. No. I moved to Chicago in 2003. Went to art school. And so I always hop back and forth, lived in New York for a little bit, hopping back and forth, but seeing the city change, because I always at least stop in once a month. And then now that I'm here for extended periods of time, it's really interesting to see really how much the city's changed. I mean, we're in this beautiful co-working space right now that is definitely very nice and renovated. You said that you're familiar with this building, or you guys bid on this project a while ago?
Yeah, we really wanted this building. So this is the developer's platform, and we have a really good relationship with them while I was at Hamilton Anderson, which is an architecture and landscape architecture firm here in Detroit. And we bid on this. We were excited about it. Bummed when we didn't get it.
Yeah.
This is actually my first time in the building since it's been renovated, and it looks good. Looks great.
Yeah, we're gonna have to walk around. I know that we're only on the first floor here, but they have multiple floors, which is pretty interesting. Can you talk about how many architecture firms are in the city of Detroit? Like, are there? I know there's the big boys like Gensler. I think has a little office here. Hamilton Anderson, obviously.
Yeah.
Key player. Rossetti does.
Rossetti. There's Knorr. There's Quinn Evans.
Oh.
You have a good amount of smaller firms too that are in the city, and then you've got some of the big ones that they have an address in the city, but they don't necessarily have a presence in the city.
Okay.
And that's a big thing, because it's one thing to come into a new market and you're qualified, you're capable, and you can do the work. Your portfolio says so, and you've got the staff, but to come into a new market and not partner locally is like, come on, we've been here, and not to say that, it should be closed off in competition. I mean, competition is good, but,
right.
Hanging a shingle does not make you a Detroit firm. And there had been, a lot of firms that did that and benefit from it. So I don't know exactly how many firms there are in Detroit now, but I think that number is very much different from the authentic Detroit firms who never left, who had been here and weathered the storm, and didn't leave or didn't come in when the bounty came.
Right. And when did the casinos come into the town? Do you remember that?
Oh.
Was that early 2000s?
It was early 2000s, maybe between 2000 2003. And I remember there was talk about putting the casinos on the water, on the riverfront, which would have been cool. Yeah. Clearly that didn't happen.
Right.
So we ended up with, what do we have? MGM, Motor City, and Greektown.
Yeah. And the old MGM is still standing. I don't know if I think they had plans to make it a headquarters for the state police. I don't know if
so they're in there.
Oh, they are in there.
Yeah, and it's, I believe Smith Group did that design, and it looks great.
Nice.
Actually, it's one of my favorite ones, modern looking buildings here in the city. And so the new facility is just across the street from that temporary space.
Interesting.
I remember when that temporary casino went up.
Yeah.
And I remember going there and like, nope, not a casino, girl.
Yeah. Even pre-COVID, I mean, it was there was a lot happening in the casinos for sure, and it was just the smoke thing I can't get over. Yeah. Like that's like, crazy.
And there's so many events, so many black tie events that happen, particularly at MGM. And it's like, you go in there and you got your gown on and your hair smells like a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and now in your current role, I know that we were talking about like immersing yourself, and you're talking about how when different firms or people have addresses, but they're not really immersed in the community. How do you think people could better immerse themselves within community? I know you said partnering with local talent, but are there any other ways?
Yeah, I think, architects and engineers and contractors who work in the city, I think, have a responsibility to educate their clients, especially the ones who are not from Detroit. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of, we're going to create a community. We're going to create a neighborhood. Well, you're not creating a neighborhood. Their neighborhood and community is already here. Mm-hmm. You're adding to it. You're plugging into it. And I think the really good developers are the ones who literally immerse themselves in the community and understand, what it is, what the needs are before they start drawing and thinking about what they're going to put there. I'm not naive enough to believe that you can have a development happen where you've got the whole development team sitting around the table and the whole of the community as well. But it's really important that, especially in a city like Detroit with so much history, with so many people who, while so many people left, there are still so many people who stayed and who've never left.
Yeah.
And so to come in and just kind of benefit on the backs of that without pouring into the city and contributing to the city other than paying your taxes, I just think it comes off as disingenuous, and it kind of puts a black eye on a lot of the good that is happening, because people are like, okay, that's great, but I love going to Henry the Hatter on, on Broadway. That was like my thing on Saturdays with my dad, and now it's not there. And you know what I mean? So it becomes more emotional and it pulls more at the heartstrings, I think, of the people who held, who held their ground and who weathered the storm here. And I think, I'm not one of those people, so I won't pretend to speak on their behalf or for them, but just kind of from the outside looking in, it's like Detroit is not new.
Right.
And so you coming in is not this, novel idea, but you saw something that was really interesting, really exciting, something that you could build upon, and that's great. But just recognize that you are adding to,
right,
and you are not creating a new neighborhood.
Yeah.
You are not creating a new community.
Yeah.
That is not what you have done.
Yeah. Well, I know when we had the conversation about breaking into other markets, like it is important to go there and be present. What other cities? I know we mentioned Atlanta earlier. What other cities are you targeting specifically?
Right now, we are. So I work for Metro Consulting Associates, and we're headquartered in Plymouth, and we have a satellite office in Highland Park. So we're not even in the city of Detroit.
Okay.
So honestly, Detroit is a city that we definitely want to work in and more. Atlanta is one where we are actively pursuing projects and getting embedded into the community there. Cincinnati, we've got an office in Cincinnati. So my counterpart is actually charged with, building that office and our book of business down there. So right now, we're kind of going where our relationships are. So we have strong relationships in Atlanta, so it just made sense to kind of, rekindle that and see where MCA as a civil engineer would be able to fit in there.
Not to cut you off, sorry. Can you explain for everybody what a civil engineer is, or what role they have on a construction project?
Sure. So civil engineer is really sort of I like to say, the first to the scene. So we deal with the ground. We make sure that whatever you're going to build on you can actually build on it. Particularly for MCA, we do surveying. So that means we let you know the boundaries in which you can build legally. We do GIS, which is the geo information
soil and
thing.
Yeah,
that. Renewables, we do a lot. Like we do wind farms.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Solar farms. Yeah. And then just traditional civil work, where it's designing the street, the layouts and site layouts and stuff. So it's really interesting. It's a very, my most recent professional background is on the architectural side, which I absolutely love. But being on the civil side gives me an opportunity to be a little bit more closer to the pre-planning or the planning phases of development, as opposed to, well, we've already got our site selected. We already know where we're going to do it. Now we just need somebody to design it, right? Yeah.
Interesting. And can you talk about a little bit about what the MCA is doing in Highland Park and the developments you guys got going on down there?
Yes.
Or over there?
Yes. So Highland Park is I absolutely love what we're doing there. So we are, we lead their water department.
Nice.
And by that, I mean, we handle the billing, customer billing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Our satellite office is actually in the water department's office.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. And then, but we're the city's engineer of record. So we are, just this morning, there was a water main break right on Woodward across the street from where our office is. And while we weren't the ones digging the hole and down there replacing the pipe and everything, as a city engineer, we coordinate all of that and make sure that we've got the right people on the job to cut the pipe, replace the pipe, make sure the water is flowing the way it's supposed to. So we've also worked on a lot of infrastructure upgrades in the city. And I think, when we started there, we were hired to do stormwater analysis. And it just kind of ballooned into this partnership with the city that I think is, especially for a city like Highland Park, with its challenges and even, fiscal challenges, we've been able to identify grant money for them and secure grant money for them so that they can actually get the infrastructure upgrades that they need so that, the residents can have clean drinking water, flowing water, running water. And it's been very interesting in that part of my job now is to, go get another Highland Park.
Right.
and to grow our municipal services. And it's a very much people aspect of which I never would have thought that you'd have that, in engineering, and where you can be so personal. We were also at a home today that was having a lead line replaced. And it was, the owner came out on the porch and was watching and making sure that we were digging where we were supposed to be digging. And it's really awesome to be able to take, something so technical and so out of reach for a lot of people and bring it back down to the human scale and have that interaction. So I'm absolutely in love with what we're doing in Highland Park.
What's the firm, I guess, what would be the conversation about what's going on in Flint still? Because I know that when I was talking to Zeke yesterday, he was talking about how there's still an issue. The water's still like an issue going out there. And of course, this is a large question, but do you ever think like that is going to be fixed at all? Or I know it's a huge question.
I hope so.
Hope so, right?
Wow, that community, they deserve it.
Yeah.
They deserve it.
Yeah.
They just announced, I think, a $600 million settlement.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah.
But when you really break that down.
Right. It's not much. Yeah.
And the long-term effects, impacts health-wise.
Yeah.
So there's no dollar amount that you can put on someone's health and their quality of life.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to be.
Right. Yep.
Didn't have to. So I will say that I really hope that there are people who care enough to do whatever it is, because even if you needed to take that $600 million and rip up all of the underground infrastructure and replace it so that you can't do anything about the past that already happened. But going forward, we know this isn't going to happen because all of the lead lines have been replaced. All of the pipes have been, do that.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah, and make sure someone's held accountable for it too, which is super important. So pre-COVID, COVID, how has that changed the way business is conducted now? I mean, I know that obviously we're sitting kind of far apart, and we first met on a Zoom call.
Yeah.
But how has that changed your day to day? Because I think you were still in the field today, as you said.
Yeah. So from a business development perspective, you have to come from behind your email if you really want to have meaningful conversations. Because some people are meeting. Some people are just like, listen, I'm out. It is what it is. A lot of people are not. So where you could, hey, I could shoot you an email, Felix, and say, let's get lunch on Tuesday, and then we don't engage or interact until then. Now, you send an email, people are getting so many emails, they're getting inundated, they probably won't see it, or when they do, like, I'll get to it.
Yeah.
Now you got to pick up the phone and have conversation. People don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. I think I'm zoomed out.
Yeah, me too.
I'm like, I don't want another Zoom, nothing. I would rather, and in fact, most of the meetings that we have are now they're Microsoft Teams. Mm-hmm. I just leave my camera off. I'm like, I'm just tired of looking at myself and all your faces in these squares. Yeah. But what I'm finding though is that if you have solid relationships, they're still intact, and the business is still happening. Mm-hmm. It's just maybe a little bit slower, but I find getting on the phone and just having conversation with people, I'm doing that more now than I had pre-COVID. Because again, it was just, I'll shoot you an email and then I'll talk to you in person, but I'm not going to,
Yeah, and being in business development as well, I mean, the projects take so long and the relationships take so long to nurture, and it's hard to start those and nurture them if you don't have them. I mean, if I was a sales rep right now and cold calling, like, that would be a very tough gig, but the relationships are definitely super important.
Yeah, it is. And I actually just had a call today with someone that I didn't know, but mm-hmm. I use LinkedIn. For me is like a gold mine. Yeah. Okay. And I'm really nosy. So the first thing I do is, let me see if you're on LinkedIn. But using LinkedIn as a tool to see, okay, who do I know that knows him? Yeah. Or her? Yeah. And if you have a friend who knows somebody that you're trying to get to, then get that friend to make that introduction for you. And so mm-hmm. cold calling, while if you had just a blind list, then that could be a little bit daunting and maybe not effective. But
so do you accept everybody who friend requests you?
Not.
Okay, I was just being clear. It's just wanted to clarify.
Absolutely not. No,
I don't
You're
either.
Not getting in.
But I was just curious. So how would you know who? Because sometimes it's hard for me to know who's really connected to someone, because just because they're not on LinkedIn mm-hmm. doesn't mean that they're not connected. But because I know personally, I don't accept it, and it's no fault of anybody or no reason. It's just sometimes they're just coming through, and I'm just not accepting. But I just wanted to ask you that. No.
No, I try to be very intentional about the network that I build on LinkedIn, because I do want you to be able to look at my LinkedIn and say, oh, Kim knows so-and-so, and I want to be able to make that connection for you. Mm-hmm. If I'm just wildly, accepting invitations, and you get the false sense that I know this person and you really need to know this person, and I'm like, I can't really help you because I don't really know him.
Right. Yeah.
So no, I get a lot of, not like I'm, fielding requests all day, but I get a lot of requests, and I, before I accept or decline, I look at them and say, like, will I benefit professionally mm-hmm. at right now or in my trajectory of where I'm going? Will I benefit? And if the answer is no, then there's really no need to connect. Mm-hmm. Is that mean? Is that bad?
I don't think care, so. I don't think so. I don't know.
Yeah.
But business development now, I mean, like I said, it takes a while to nurture. People are calling a lot more for mm-hmm. sure. It's just the screen fatigue, I think, is so harsh right now. Mm-hmm. That's why for me, getting out and doing things like this, and you can only do it for so much, though. And COVID has definitely affected a lot of things where obviously you can't meet too many people or go out and grab a drink or whatever it may be. So it's definitely an interesting time to be working business development. So I want to follow back up on that Japanese thing that you learned about in college before we take off on here.
Yeah, Japanese. So my plan mm-hmm. was to become a marketing executive for Ford and split my time between the U.S. and Japan, working on Ford Mazda.
How does one have that ambition?
Well,
Because you would have to have that ambition when you were young in college, right?
yeah. So that was I actually my first year in college, I was at DePaul in Chicago.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I ended up transferring back home, and I knew marketing was something that I was interested in. If I had it to do over again, I probably would have majored in finance or economics, but still with a foreign language and probably still with Japanese. But I was just always interested in the Japanese culture. Eastern had a program, Language and World Business, so you had to pick a business discipline in a language. And Japanese was something that I studied French and Spanish in high school, and that was really easy.
Mm-hmm.
And so Japanese was something that I looked at. There's no direct translation to English. So I'm like, this is like going to be learning how to speak again. But what could I do with that?
Mm-hmm.
And so, being here in Michigan and with the auto industry, so it was just kind of a natural fit. And then I ended up, while in college, I ended up working for a translation company. So we were an engineering firm, mechanical engineering, and we translated all of the documents from Japanese into English for Ford Mazda. And I loved it. And I was like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Interesting.
And I didn't do it.
No, that's a pretty big, ambitious career path to try to become an executive at Ford that crosses internationally.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting.
I wonder what would have happened.
Right.
But I think my love because also in college, a friend of mine and I had a clothing store here downtown. And so my love for retail and fashion and entertainment and all of that, I think kind of just took over.
Yeah.
And that's how I ended up in New York. But
there you go. That's interesting. Yeah, there you go. Provide a little more color on that. I like that.
Yeah.
Any other boutiques downtown right now that are nice that you like? I mean, Detroit is the New Black is having a great moment right now.
Yeah, Detroit is the New Black. I like Birdbee. It's in Capitol Park. It's a cute little women's boutique. Honestly, I don't really shop that much.
Yeah.
And most of what I do now is online.
Yeah.
I get very territorial about things, so I don't be walking into a place and somebody has the same thing on. So I kind of.
Oh yeah. Isn't that the worst?
Yes.
It is the worst.
Yes.
So I want to get your thoughts on marketing really quick. I know that that's a big part of what we do. How do brands capture your attention, or how are you, you yourself, are you coordinating the marketing of your company? Like, what do you think? Because everything is Zoom fatigue, as we're talking about. Like, what are your strategies that you would like to try to implement moving forward?
Yeah, so I think it's being, this sounds so canned, but I really think there's something to being authentic. Mm-hmm. and really knowing who you are. Mm-hmm. And that starts within an organization. So one of the things that we're doing right now internally is making sure that if I ask the question, what type of firm is MCA? Mm-hmm. I should be able to ask that question to every single employee in the company, from our CEO down to a field technician, and the answer should be the same. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of times brands and companies don't spend a lot of that internal time because we're so busy trying to make sure that the outward, the focus outward is, everybody has to see us in a certain way, but that's fine. But if you go in your house and it's a mess, it doesn't matter that your lawn is pristine and manicured, because that's not real,
Yeah.
So we are fortunate. We have a really amazing marketing manager. And I think that that is also important because a lot of times, especially in professional services, we like to lump business development and marketing. And that can be the same person. And no, you really,
thank God.
it's just not.
It's not.
And I think it does firms a disservice when they don't put the time and investment in hiring a professional, well-read marketing person who knows how to write a marketing brief. Mm-hmm. If you ask any business development professional to write a marketing brief, they're like, what? And those things are important because you're able to flush out, the messaging and that messaging hierarchy and all of those other technical things that people take for granted. Mm-hmm. And you can look at firms who know exactly who they are, and they exude that, and you show it, and you see it, they live it, they breathe it. Mm-hmm. And then you can look at firms that are like, you're not really what you said.
Right.
And I learned that during my time at Virgin Mobile. And we were, like, if you came into our office, it was so cool.
Yeah.
We looked amazing.
Yeah.
We looked like this really cool, hip New York brand, although we were in Warren, New Jersey. And we really wanted to capture the younger demographic, although most of our subscribers were 35 and up. So it was like what we were, our subscribers and our buyers and users were parents maybe buying for their kids, but we didn't capture that data. We captured, at the point of sale, who was actually buying. The demographic was not this young, hip kid.
Yeah.
Although our marketing, advertising, it was super cool and creative, but it was racy. And it was like, as a mother, I don't want that. Right, and so it was just sort of like this schizophrenic environment. So to go back and answer your question, with MCA, so we're 10 years old, and we are going through a rebrand and just kind of, what do we want to be when we grow up? My boss, who's the president of the company, is smart enough to know you need to have a very strong marketing person. And we have that. We have a really strong marketing manager, again, who gets it and who works collaboratively with the business development team. So I can say, I need to go out and get another municipality like Highland Park, and I need to be able to highlight these aspects of what we're doing in our municipal services. Here's everything you need to know. Take it and make it, make it sellable.
Yeah.
And it's a good relationship because she can do that.
Yeah.
I think that, so for me, the secret is stop trying to do things that you are not capable of, and embrace that, right? And bring on a resource, whether you hire them or you contract them.
Yeah, collaborate with them.
That can help you really tell that story in a way, because even when you're so close to it, like the municipal stuff, I'm close to it. I breathe it all day. Andrea does not. She's got a million other things, but I can put that in front of her and it becomes fresh. And, through collaboration, we come up with something that makes sense and that's sellable.
Yeah.
And so that, I just think making the separation in that demarcation line between business development and marketing is really important.
Yeah, very important. And that's why I'm grateful that Kristen, mutual contact, she's on the team, and, she background in journalism and can handle the written word. I'm like, that's great. Yeah. Because there is a delineation. And I often in my career got pigeonholed into that, like all in one person, business development, marketing, where really it needs its own focal point, and they need to be, even graphics, like even having a graphics person, like don't have a designer, interior designer do graphics, like get a graphic designer to do the graphics. Sure, it may be interior graphics, but get a designer to do the graphics. Well, cool. Thank you again for stopping in. Any last word, or where can people find you? Obviously, you're not going to accept their LinkedIn requests, but
Well, I am on LinkedIn. You can try Kimberly Hoyle.
Nice.
Instagram, Facebook, and here around in Detroit.
Cool.
And I'm at MCA, Metro Consulting Associates, and let me know if you need civil survey and all that good stuff.
Perfect.
We can get it done.
Perfect. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.